Hello.
Hello.
Oh, gosh. So I'm not sure how many people are turning up today. I know the golf season is very busy at the moment, so people are out dealing with members and visitors.
Oh, well, I've got two juicy questions when you get...
Oh, go on then.
Oh, you
go on. Let's start with them.
Oh, yeah. I honestly feel the heat has made everyone crazy.
So yeah.
I've got two situations here. Okay. Front office manager started with us 26th of May. And then we got the hotel manager got a phone call from another hotel manager saying, who's your front office manager? Is this person? Well, I've just had an induction lunch with him on the 30th of June. So I'm expecting him to start with me, but he's actually employed with us.
Wow.
So it looks like he has, he was looking for two jobs. So he signed a contract with us and told us he'd start within a month. And he signed a contract with the other place and said he'll start in 2 months. So on his day off, he went for an induction day and had lunch with the general manager. He then didn't turn back up and gave him some cock and bull story that he had an optician appointment and he couldn't come. The manager was suspicious, so went back to the original employee, which was on his CV. They said he doesn't work for us anymore. He works for us.
Yeah.
So these two managers know each other, so he phoned our manager and told him.
Wow.
I love that story. I love that.
He's saying, yeah, I went for a free meal. I went for a lunchtime with the manager. I went for a free meal, but I didn't really start because they haven't paid me. Well, I mean, officially they should pay him for that one day anyway. I don't know whether they will or not. That's not up, you know. And so clearly we want to look at dismissing on the grounds of gross misconduct. You know, he signed a contract with us. It's a breach of trust and confidence.
It's none of those things. I'm sorry.
No?
Yeah, it's none of those. So you can let him go. You can just say, look, mate, it didn't work. It hasn't worked out. We're really concerned about this thing. This seems really, really dishonest. And we're just actually not comfortable continuing your employment. We're going to need to let you go. That spot on. It's none of those other things. It's not gross misconduct. Looking for another job, not gross misconduct.
But he's employed with us.
Another day off, not gross misconduct.
No, he's not looking for the job. He went to start for an induction day as he started employment.
Yes, but on his day off.
Yeah,
he's allowed to do whatever
he did it on his day off. It's not gross misconduct. I'm really sorry to tell you.
But in the contract it says you're not allowed to work for somebody else while employed.
It does say that it's not enforceable.
It's not enforceable in the way that you're trying to enforce it. It would be enforceable, for example, if he wasn't able to make his shifts at yours because he was working somewhere else, and then you went, well, hold on, you've got another job, but this is all but
it was a full-time job. It was a full-time manager's job. It wasn't a job.
The other thing I would say is you don't need it.
No.
You don't need it. You don't need to go down gross misconduct because you would need to do an investigation and a disciplinary and all of that. And you wouldn't need that anyway. Where you are in this situation, you're not going to be able to enforce that clause anyway as gross misconduct.
Yeah.
But I'm also telling you that you don't have to do all that effort.
No.
It's also not trust and confidence. Trust and confidence is unfortunately something that looks a bit different. And again, it's not going to be something you're going to apply to someone who's working for 4 days or 5 days or 2 weeks. However, you absolutely can let this guy go because you can say to him, look, you know, we're just not comfortable with this. It feels really dishonest. And we're just not happy to continue employment with you. Really sorry. We're just going to let you go.
And we've just got to pay him his 2 weeks notice.
You pay him in lieu of notice and you let him go.
Yeah.
I will ask you if he's got protected characteristics, but I will also tell you if you word it in the way that I explained, I think you're fine.
Yeah. Unbelievable though.
Yeah.
It is. It's a really great story. I haven't heard one like that.
I honestly think he is a pathological liar. He just lies about everything.
Well, you've really dodged the bullet.
Bits, to be honest.
Unbelievable. But so there's another quick one then.
Yeah.
So the F&B manager has sent a 17-year-old lad who's only just started with us a copy of a WhatsApp conversation between him and his F&B supervisor. His F&B supervisor is saying this young lad was as useful as a chocolate teapot on this particular day. He sent him the copy of it as feedback. Clearly, this young lad has shown it to his mum, who also works for us. She's now sent me an email going like, how unprofessional is this guy? Is this a breach of GDPR? Because I can't imagine the supervisor would have given the manager permission to have shared that comment with him either. I'm just like, what is wrong with them?
That's shocking. You are full of great stories today.
Oh my God, honestly. They're coming out the woodwork. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I think you need to have an investigation meeting with that manager for sending that information. And I think you probably need to have a word with this 17-year-old person, and he might want to bring his mum along, and I probably wouldn't put too much of a fuss up in this specific situation about that, and say, look, we apologize. It's unprofessional. That's not how feedback should be shared. Please, we're really, really sorry. And please carry on as you were.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's just a bump in the road with that employee. What we don't want to hear is in 2 or 3 weeks' time, someone coming and going, we want to now dismiss that employee because they are a chocolate teapot. Because unfortunately, that's going to be harder.
Yeah, but could the supervisor is there a breach of sharing that message with?
Yes, actually, I think they both should be investigated. The manager for using that language, and the supervisor probably even more so for not only.
So the supervisor said it to the manager, and the manager shared it. But will the supervisor then be unhappy with the manager for sharing it without asking for his permission? I mean, I can't imagine.
Yeah, but it's also
is it
not
all right for me to send that comment to him?
No, but it's also not professional feedback. So what the manager should have said to the supervisor was, no, how is that any helpful feedback? That I need to have, what is he actually doing wrong? How are we going to improve it? What have you done? Telling me he's a chocolate teapot, yes, that's very amusing, but that actually doesn't help. So that conversation should have taken place. And yeah, the manager should not have sent it to the employee, because again, it doesn't help anything, does it? No. So yeah.
And honestly, it's just rude. It's rude and unprofessional.
Yeah. And however true it might be of a 17-year-old and their first job, it's not helping them to get better, is it?
It's not.
Be less of a chocolate teapot, please. Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Thank you.
All right. Melanie Pointer, how are you doing? Haven't seen you for a while.
I'm all right. Yes, I'm still managing on, and generally haven't really had too many staff issues because I don't really have too many staff. That's one way of reducing the problems.
It is.
I had a sort of very brief query. I think in the contract somewhere it mentions about if there's a drop off in work. Now, there isn't an imminent need, but it's been a little bit up and down actually lately, more than normal. So how do you go about reducing somebody's hours if there's not a business need, whether that's temporary or whatever? I think it's, as I say, it's written into the contracts, so I wasn't sure.
Well, okay, but if there's no business need, why are you reducing their hours?
That's what I'm saying. If there's a business need, in other words, work drops off.
Oh. Okay, no, you just said there's no. You said, how do I do it if there's no business?
Yeah, that's why I was so like, oh.
Okay, so if business drops off, how do you implement that?
Yes, so then that's the short time working, and then and we can go through that when you get to that. But it's then saying, okay, for the next 3 weeks, for the next 4 weeks, I'm going to reduce your hours from 40 hours a week to 30 hours a week. Pay will reduce accordingly, and you're sort of in agreement with that. There are more letters around that, and people's right to be made redundant. You can lay off people as well. It's just working out how many hours you want to reduce it by to see
probably
what.
Probably not a huge amount. I mean, probably like 5 to 10 hours max, and hopefully not permanently. I think there's just been some issues that I need to look into why we've got less referrals. But it's a case of, at the moment, padding the work out with admin and stuff, and I don't want to keep doing that. But likewise, I didn't know if I had to give them a month's notice or longer, or, you know.
No.
You need to, because it's in your contracts, you don't actually, there isn't a specific amount of time that you need to give them notice, but it is probably good not to tell them on a Friday that this is happening from Monday. It's probably good to tell them on a Monday it's happening from next Monday, sort of thing. Now, there are a few intricacies that I could talk you through offline, but basically, there is something called the statutory guaranteed payment that will still be in place of £35 per day, for a maximum of 5 days in a 3-month period. So if you have an employee that you've put on short-time working, so let's say, for example, normally they would work 5 days a week, but you're going to put them on 3 days a week for the next 6 weeks, then for 5 out of those days that they are now not working, that have now become temporarily non-working days, you would need to pay them £35 a day. So I want you to be aware that there is that small amount. Now, I realise that compared to what you would normally pay them, that's probably acceptable. But just so that you are aware, there is that payment. And then also, there isn't really a time limit to how long it can go on for, but there is, the employee has the chance, or has the right, it's right, a better way to put it, is it the right to request redundancy from you if it goes on for more than 4 consecutive weeks or for 6 weeks in a 13-week period. And then in order to not make them redundant, you would need to give them their normal contracted working hours for a period of, I can't remember, I feel like it was 13 weeks. So let's say, for example, someone's been on short-term working for 4 weeks, they then request redundancy. You have 2 options. You can either make them redundant, or you then have to give them their normal working hours for, I think it's 13 weeks. I'll have to double check that figure for you before you could put them back on short-time working.
Okay, and is that different if somebody's on a visa?
Okay.
Not for you, but it might be for them.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we probably need to look at that in more detail. Yeah.
Yeah, it might impact them, but it wouldn't be different necessarily for you as an employer.
Yeah.
Nothing is really.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay. What was I going to say today? Okay. So one of the questions that came up today was about compassionate leave. And it's just a thing about the handbooks. When you're looking for stuff in the handbooks or the contract, try and use the tools a little bit more. Do a Control F to find the word. Don't just go from the index, because the index is obviously high level, particularly in the handbook. And the client had looked for bereavement leave. And I'm going to say compassionate leave is next to bereavement leave, but he just found bereavement leave. Whereas if you do Control F and put in compassionate, it will then find you where the things are. So if you are looking for something in the handbook, that's the way I would start looking for it, rather than trying to find the section, and because it will give you all the answers. It was just that he was just really struggling, and it's like, there you go, that's that. And to repeat again, that all handbooks need to be sent electronically to staff, either to their private email, not work email, private email, or as an attachment to a WhatsApp chat, so that they all have it at home and can refer to it if they need to. Then they also have no justification for saying, oh, I didn't know what the absence reporting procedure was. Well, you've got the handbook, so you could have looked it up. So just makes it a bit easier to deal with people when they mess around, really. Nadia, what horror stories have we had this week?
So I would say the horror stories that I have had this week are around disciplinaries and a complete lack of process when it comes to disciplinaries. I think I have had 3 clients this week where I've had to just go, sorry, you done it wrong. Like, sorry for you. You've done it wrong. You've got to start over or abandon ship here, because you can't carry on with this process. You've done it that badly. And it's shocking sometimes when these are our clients and I'm like, why didn't you just call me? Like, you pay me. You might just as well use me. I'm here. Like, so we've had 3 processes this week where the process has not been followed. For example, in one, they just informed us that they had given someone a warning. Can we please write up the warning for them? Actually, can we please check this warning for them? That they have just given someone with 0 process. They're just, by the way, all head greenkeepers, because with the hot weather, I'm just going to say it as it is. Greenkeepers are all in the shit. And it's a shame because it's not their fault. But with this hot weather, there is just no way to keep your greens nice. And I will mention that there doesn't seem to be any golf people on our call today, because they're probably busy panicking about their greens, as I would be if I was a golfer. They're all burned. They're short, they're burned, they're dying, they're patchy, they're not nice to play on, I'm sure. They don't look great. And greenkeepers, head greenkeepers are getting told off left, right, and centre. And I feel really, really sorry for them, because it must be hard in this weather to be able to stay on top of it. But on the other hand, they're all experienced and they probably should know how to handle it and how to water their greens and so on. But this is now the time when they realize, for example, that their irrigation systems are not working because they haven't been checked and there's been no maintenance on them for 2 years. But yeah, that's one of the situations. So yeah, one of the clubs just gave someone a warning because the greens weren't in good condition. Just no process, no investigation, nothing. Just here's a warning because the greens are shit. Okay. One of the other clubs, actually 2 clubs did something similar where they did very sort of shady processes. One did a meeting, but they did it on the tee around the problem. So that was apparently the investigation meeting. There was no notes, there was no recording, because it was just a couple of men standing around a tee talking about the problem. And that was apparently the investigation meeting. So this person was just invited to a disciplinary with no evidence, no allegations, just a time and a date and who the meetings were, because the greens look bad. And in another situation, there is a lot of performance issues with the greenkeeper. Nobody's talked to him about any of it before. And now, because there was a complaint about the greens and he was told to water the greens and he didn't, they want to fire him for all of the problems. And again, there's been no investigation. They don't really want to do an investigation. They just want to fire him. Been there like 25 years. They just want to fire him now, today, because the greens are a problem. So I just want to remind you, it doesn't matter what the situation is and how desperate you think the situation is and how angry you might be about the situation and how many complaints you're getting from your members or your clients about the situation. You always have to follow the rules in terms of disciplinaries. You have to do the investigations. You have to do the disciplinary hearings. They need a proper invite letter. Please ask us for it, because we don't expect you to be able to write a proper disciplinary invite letter. That is our jobs. But it's not the most straightforward thing to get right if you are not regularly doing it. And hold the disciplinary by someone else, not someone who's already been involved in the investigation. Give an outcome, give an appeal, be reasonable with the outcome that you're given, or the outcome that you're giving. If you've never spoken to someone about anything in terms of performance, you cannot now sack gross misconduct for performance when you've done nothing for 25 years. So there is a process, and it really doesn't matter how angry you are at the employee for the situation you are in. you need to follow the process. Otherwise, you are going to end up being sued by that employee and you're going to end up losing because you didn't follow a process. Yeah, so that's my rant for this week.
And mine is similar. It is about disciplinary. It's about processes. Again, in the golf clubs, they do tend to think of themselves as family, and they do take things personally. But we've got a golf club where one of the waitresses has sent a letter to the general manager, but also to her line manager, saying how she's not happy with her line manager. Now, her line manager has come to us and said, this is awful. She's got to sit down and she could be nice to me because I'm always nice to her, blah, blah, blah. And I'm speaking to the general manager and like, okay, so, and he's also going, oh, this is so ungrateful and blah, blah, blah. It's like, and the process is a grievance hearing heard by somebody who's not been involved so far. Yeah, because she's really ungrateful. And that's fine, but actually we need to have a grievance hearing and formalize it and record it, and then she has her right of appeal. And he's like, well, I don't know where this is going to end up. I said, well, she's either going to leave or she'll be fine, or she won't be fine, but she won't leave and she'll be grumpy, and then we'll deal with that. But we're not looking at that. What we're looking at is we've got to deal with this, because they've tried to go, oh, we'll just have a chat with her, and then the employee has been allegedly crying for a whole hour about how awful it is working at the club. It's like, well, if it's really that bad, why are you still there? But also crying for a whole hour, that's really a very good achievement. I don't know many who can do that for a whole hour. So I don't know if that was a slight exaggeration. But it's just like, yeah, so don't do it informally. I don't know why you're spending an hour of your time as a general manager doing this. You need to have it in a process. So it is difficult as a business owner, because you have those relationships, to not take it personally. But actually, that's why we've got the ACAS processes, so that you can put it into a process and it isn't dependent on that relationship anymore. That is all fair and reasonable, and the employee can't come back and sue you for not following the fair process. That's why the processes are there. Most people think it's to protect the employee, and a teeny bit it is, but maybe like 30%, because the employee has more rights than the employer. 70% is for you to actually show, I have done a fair and reasonable thing in dealing with this issue. Therefore, while you might be upset with me, you cannot fault my process. And that's it. It's just when you start going, well, they should be more grateful, or blah, blah, blah. If you hear yourself saying that, that's absolutely the very latest you should be calling us, because we need to step in and get it into a process. So
absolutely. I think the saying that goes with this really well is, it's not personal, it's just business. As managers of people need to stop taking things so very personally and just run it like a business and deal with it as a business problem, which there is already a process for.
And to remember sometimes that employees are like teenage children, that they will say stuff to be hurtful without meaning it, but they just want to provoke a reaction, or they want to get the stress off of their chest. And that's why you're not supposed to take it 100%. That's why we say, let's have that in writing, please. And can we do that so that we can deal with it? Because they are throwing mud out there just to get a reaction and to show how upset they are. So good. Okay. Well, have a lovely weekend despite the weather. Although I've got a weekend to myself without the dog, so I'm going to be reading my favourite books, because I bought lots of books recently, and looking out in the garden in the rain going, oh, I don't have to water it today. That's excellent. Yeah, we'll see you all here next Thursday. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you want a free peace of mind call with us to discuss your policies, handbook, and any burning staff issues in your business, click the link in the description below.